The restaurant where we found ourselves that evening had always captivated me. It exuded a charm that spoke volumes, an inviting ambience, exquisite cuisine, and impeccable acoustics. In an era where many establishments embraced modern, unfinished ceilings that only amplified noise and disrupted the dining experience, this place stood apart. Housed in a beautifully preserved historic building, it had been meticulously transformed into an elegant steakhouse while retaining its original architectural splendor. The venue featured 7 distinct dining rooms spread across 2 levels, each tastefully decorated. The tables were arranged with just the right amount of space, offering privacy and an intimate setting, perfect for a romantic night. But tonight was anything but romantic. Across from me sat my wife, Kathy. We occupied a table on the lower level, yet despite the cozy atmosphere, an air of unease surrounded us. She fidgeted, avoiding my gaze, her discomfort evident. Still, beneath her nervous demeanor, I saw a glimmer of resolve in her eyes. I remained mostly silent, speaking just enough to order our drinks and settle in. As I scanned the menu, I briefly considered the blackberry fusion before ultimately deciding on the beef tenderloin tornado with a burgundy sauce. Taking a slow sip of my single malt whiskey on the rocks, I observed Kathy. She was still a striking woman, intelligent, accomplished, someone I had once admired deeply. But my feelings for her had changed, though she was unaware of it. That change had been quietly taking root within me, and tonight, she would finally understand. What I was about to reveal would shake her to her core, possibly tearing apart everything we had built. My name is Ben Jones. I'm 49 years old, a software account executive, and I'd been married to Kathy for 28 years. Yet, the woman sitting across from me now felt like a stranger. Yes, Kathy? I said, exhaling softly, bracing myself for the conversation ahead. Well, that's a surprise, she replied with a sharp edge. You finally have something to say. Her irritation was evident. You've always had a way with words, Ben, she added, her voice laced with sarcasm. Thank you for that, I answered, my tone neutral. And for once, I'm not being sarcastic. I let the words linger between us, holding her gaze before taking another sip of my drink. She quickly averted her eyes as the waiter approached. I handed over my menu and placed my order, opting for the blackberry eat with Spanish rice. Kathy, clearly unsettled by my demeanor, hastily glanced through the menu and settled on a salad, an uninspired choice for a steakhouse. Once the waiter had left, she turned her attention back to me. Ben, I've been thinking a lot lately, she began, carefully choosing her words. About us. About you. About me. She hesitated, then continued, and I need to share my thoughts. I traced the condensation on my glass before speaking. There's a difference between being late and being too late. She frowned. What are you talking about? A day late and $1 short, I said, taking another slow sip. Go on, Kathy. Say what's on your mind. I'm listening. She took a breath, steadying herself. I think we should consider a period of separation. Not permanent, just some time apart. A chance for me to figure things out. For both of us, really. I exhaled, my expression unreadable. No. Kathy's head snapped up, a lock of blonde hair falling across her face. What do you mean, no? A separation could be good for us. Her voice softened, her smile almost gentle. It might even help me rediscover my love for you. But there was no warmth in her tone, no affection, no triumph. It was the kind of patience someone used when trying to placate a child who wanted to stay up past bedtime. I don't want you to rekindle anything with me, Kathy, I said firmly. I can't sit through any more justifications for your actions. Let's not pretend. You want a separation so you can see someone else. Her eyes widened, genuine disbelief flashing across her face. That's not true. I'm not trying to replace you. I'm not looking for someone new. Our marriage has lost its spark, and I think some time apart could help us find our way back to each other. Yes, Kathy, I said, my voice calm but resolute. Our marriage lacks excitement. I nodded, my voice steady yet unwavering. You're right about one thing, Kathy. Our marriage has lost its spark. But more than that, it's grown stagnant. For the past 2 years, I've made every effort to change that, but it's been a battle fought alone. Instead of a partnership, our relationship has turned into a tangled web of conflicting interests, 3 people, each pulling in different directions. I lifted a hand, anticipating her objection before she could even voice it. You've replaced me, Kathy. You've shattered my trust, and now you expect me to accept this arrangement, one where you continue exploring a relationship with Roger under the guise of fixing things between us. I refuse to stand by and watch while you justify your betrayal. Kathy's expression twisted in anger as she clutched her napkin tightly, her knuckles whitening. Her eyes narrowed as she hissed. You're wrong. I haven't been unfaithful. Roger isn't a substitute for you. I remained composed. Then tell me, Kathy, what do you call it? Even if nothing physical has happened, emotionally, you've already pushed me aside. You've let him into the most intimate parts of your life, the spaces that once belonged to us. She shifted uncomfortably, lowering her voice. Ben, please. Keep your voice down. There's no need to turn this into a public spectacle. Why not? I countered. You've already made it public. So tell me, who else knows about our separation before I did? Her gaze faltered, flickering away. Well, I might have talked to Roger about it a few times. I arched an eyebrow. So you discussed the future of our marriage with another man before even speaking to your own husband? That's not deceitful? I leaned forward slightly. You're making decisions about our life with his input, while keeping me in the dark. That, Kathy, is betrayal. Roger seems to have more say in this marriage than I do. Her face flushed, and she averted her eyes just as the waitress arrived, carefully setting down our plates before retreating quickly, sensing the tension. I offered her a polite nod, which only fueled Kathy's frustration. You're blowing this out of proportion, she muttered barely above a whisper. Roger is just a friend. He listens. He understands me without judgment. He's been a source of support. I set my glass down with deliberate firmness. Let's be clear, Kathy. You crossed a line. Your actions have disrespected our marriage, insulted my intelligence, and put our future in jeopardy. Roger may seem like the perfect confidant, but he's manipulating this situation, and it needs to stop. She gasped, stunned, but I ignored her and turned my attention to the waiter checking on our meal. Everything is excellent, thank you, I said smoothly. Kathy's voice snapped back, defensive and clipped. I'm not a cheater, Ben. And you're wrong about Roger. I haven't betrayed you. I met her gaze with unwavering resolve. The way you've confided in him, sought his advice, shared things you never shared with me, it's as if you've already crossed the threshold. And frankly, it disgusts me. She looked shaken, but I didn't waver. I focused on my fillet, savoring its rich flavor, the only part of the evening worth remembering. After a few bites, I pushed the plate away and took a sip of water. Her voice softened. Ben, I never meant to hurt you. That was never my intention. I slammed my glass onto the table, the sharp sound cutting through the air. Don't lie, Kathy. You knew exactly how much this would hurt me. That's why you kept it hidden. You don't get to claim innocence when you made a conscious decision to deceive me. I reached into my wallet, placed $200 on the table, and stood up. Taking the last sip of my scotch, I glanced at her one final time. There's no going back, Kathy. I've already started the divorce proceedings. Despite her protests, pleas for counseling, empty promises, and unreasonable demands, our divorce moved forward. She refused to sign the papers at first, insisting on further discussion. But I stood firm. I made it clear that any conversation we had would happen only after everything was finalized. For the sake of our children and grandchildren, I needed a clean break. Eventually, the divorce was settled. Our assets were divided equally, and I moved on with my life. A few months later, Kathy sent me a confrontational letter, questioning why I gave up on our marriage without a fight. I didn't argue. I simply forwarded her a photo, a picture she had sent me just 3 days after that dinner. A picture of her with Roger. She had started dating him within a week of our separation. After that, I never heard from her again. These days, I rarely date. I find peace in solitude, in time spent with my children, my grandchildren, and the few close friends who truly matter. A casual companion here and there is enough for me. At first, my children sided with Kathy, not fully understanding what had transpired. But I calmly asked them, if their spouse lost interest in them and turned to someone else for emotional comfort, would they simply stand by and accept it? Would they let their partner drift away without consequence? Eventually, they saw the truth, and our bond strengthened, though their relationship with Kathy weakened. She remarried soon after, only to divorce again. Her involvement with Roger, supposedly a brief mistake, never turned into anything meaningful. I never asked for details. I retired early, moving to the countryside where I found contentment in a simple, quiet life. I no longer wasted energy on someone who had neither valued nor reciprocated my love. Though I sometimes missed the woman I once married, the life we had planned together, I embraced the freedom that came with leaving behind an unfulfilling marriage. Kathy had emotionally abandoned our relationship long before the paperwork made it official. And in the end, I had no regrets.